We're now going to be introducing to you your last keynote speaker to wrap up the summit. Col Leon Sam Barringer retired from the U.S. Air Force in September of 2021. His 34-year career includes time as a commander of the 302nd ASTS at Peterson Air Force Base. He was responsible for overseeing the mission of deploying medical personnel to provide command, surgical support, aeromedical evacuation, nursing, and specialty functions for en route patient staging systems and for rapidly deployable expeditionary medical support team for mental health triage and traumatic stress management, critical care expertise, surgical and dental support, and initial environmental and disease assessments at their deployed locations. He is deployed both as an Army and Air Force officer. He served as a deputy command surgeon for the North Atlantic Treaty Organization training mission in Afghanistan. Before this, he was also deployed for 14 months to Iraq as a team leader assigned to the Combined Joint Special Operations Task Force. He was also in Afghanistan. Colonel Barringer is a large animal veterinarian consultant, and I teased him. I said, "You are proving my point. I've always said if something major happens, take me to a vet, not the hospital." He graduated in 1991 from the University of California, Davis, and he now owns and operates a private practice and had tenure in academia and served on the faculty of the United States Air Force Academy. Sam is also a rancher and a keynote speaker with an emphasis on the importance of food security and managing change. Please make welcome, and we want to thank Land O'Lakes for doing this session, so thank you to Land O'Lakes, Colonel Sam Barringer.
Hey, thank you so much. I wasn't sure which hat to put on to come up here and greet you folks today. Do I put my military hat on? Do I put my large animal veterinarian hat on? For those of you that don't understand, there's a difference. And so what I really want to do today is actually have a little fun. And as a large animal veterinarian, you know, my wife will tell you that over the years, I've tried to do some small animals. So how many of you have dogs or cats? Okay, let me see. A lot of us do, right? And so over the years, I've tried to do some dogs and cats as a veterinarian, and occasionally one of them will survive. And so I learned pretty quick I needed to focus in on cattle and horses over the years. And then also, you heard all of those comments about the human medicine side of things, all the things that I was involved in the human side of things. And so as a veterinarian, you think about, especially cattle veterinarian, I grew up on a small dairy about 2.5 hours from here in western New York, okay? Now my wife would argue with you because she will contend that I never did grow up. So, and that's probably also a true statement, right? And so as we gather here today and we talk about change management and all of the stuff that's involved in change management, I would say my goal is to be out of here in the next 3 to 4 hours, if we're okay with that. Nobody is. We're going to try to go pretty fast. There's a lot of material here, and I would encourage those of you that don't have a pen and paper to grab one and capture some of the key concepts in this, because there are some key concepts in here that will help you deal with change. And the change that we're going to have in the dairy industry in 2023, does anybody think we're going to see change in 2023? Yeah, and it's going to be massive, okay? How many of you would have believed, you know, 3 years ago that our entire economy would be shut down and we'd be cowering under our tables, okay? You know, because of a virus. How many of you would have believed America could change that fast? Okay, none of us would have believed that, especially in rural America. So there's going to be change coming, and there are things that we can do that I've learned both as a battle combat tested warrior, as a large animal veterinarian, and certainly as a father, et cetera, et cetera. And those ideas will help you deal with change. Otherwise, why do this? You know, this is the end of the conference. You know, pretty good conference. What do you think? Pretty good conference? Good. Yeah. So let's end this on something that you can also take home. So let's see if I can make this thing work. Well, went the wrong way. There we go. So change management or adapting your mind. And I always start off with, I always use this font. How many of you here have seen me present before over the years? Let me see hands. So a few of you, I'm sorry, but you'll see some of the same ideas and concepts that are going to play out. But again, at my core, there are two things that I want everybody to understand. And that is my patriotism and my love for what we do here as dairymen. They're the same thing. So national security and food security are deeply intertwined. Is it the banking sector? Is it the automotive industry? What makes this country work? And I would tell you that people that don't eat will not cooperate. Okay? What you do as dairymen, or what we do in this sector of agriculture, is critical to national security. So when they said, hey, can you come speak at a meeting in Pennsylvania? One, I live close to here, so it's good to see my family. But this idea of understanding what we do as dairymen, as people in agriculture, and how it equates to what this great country is, resonates very deeply with me. So I'll take time out of my day, but I want you guys to get something out of this. Otherwise, you know, you guys could have left with the other 30% who already went home. So, and just recognize that I tend to be a little bit irreverent, and I'm not politically correct. Okay, if you want to go to the politically correct meeting, then that's in Madison, Wisconsin. So. And that was kind of fun. Did anybody else go to the game last night? Am I the only clown that went to that game last night? So I was a little disappointed in the outcome, I will tell you. Okay, so introduction, thriving in change. How does, let me get behind this computer, how does our mind and even our cows' minds work? Neurochemistry 101. There's some thoughts and ideas that I want you to think about. Start with why. How many of you have heard a talk on Start With Why? Okay, so this will be fairly new to you, okay? And then I'm going to talk a little bit about a warrior mindset, because all of you have this idea of what a warrior is, right? So you look at me and say, there's a warrior. I would tell you that a warrior mindset is the least of which is like what you see with me. A warrior is someone who always stands in the gap and protects those that can't protect themselves. That's what a warrior is. So when you think about that, and do some self-introspective, how many of you are warriors? You stand in the gap and protect those that can't protect themselves. I know my mom was, okay? I don't know if you have any mothers here, but I can tell you, your mom probably was the greatest warrior you ever knew. The idea of conceptualization, we're gonna dive into that a little bit. And then developing habits that will absolutely allow you to embrace change. Because those that fight change will have a lot of bad days, okay? They'll have a lot of bad days. Those that embrace change, and it has to be the right kind of change, right? There are some changes that are going on. We gotta fight. We gotta say, not only no, but hell no, right? We have to step in that gap. And then at the end of the day, to keep with the theme of excellence, we've got to be excellence in all we do. So the first thing I'll tell you, and to write this down, is the idea of core values. So if I were to just pick someone randomly, which I would do in a smaller audience, I'm still tempted to do it. If I were to stop you and say, what are your core values? Can anybody here, would anybody volunteer, let me ask that question, to stand up and say, this is my core value? Anybody want to volunteer? Nobody's going to volunteer, so I won't. Yeah, go ahead.
I would say creating a family.
Faith and family, you're stealing my lecture, so you're not allowed to talk anymore, okay? Faith and family as a core value is really, really important. And again, that's going to help you along with 3 other F's that I use. So I like to use the same, because I often would talk to people in the Army, so you have to do something that would catch their attention, okay? Tree good, fire bad, okay? So, so you have to do something that would catch their attention. Faith and family are going to be some of those core values. And so as you look at some of the core values, as you think about my family, so this is where I brag on my family a little bit. So my wife and I met in the military. She's, can't really, let me see if I can do that. She's right there. So that's my wife. Around them are my children, and you can see that as they're graduating from the Air Force Academy or doing something else, that they're shaking hands or in the presence of people that you might recognize, right? So anybody recognize the guy on the right there? Right there? Yeah. So my son is the smart one in that picture. Lower left. Whoops, went too far. So lower left, anybody? What's that? Yeah, so my son's the senile one in that picture. Not. And then I can't point my son out with President Trump, but that's after the Air Force Academy won the last Commander-in-Chief trophy. So he was on the football team there. So core values, and I raised my boys with core values. So those of you that have young kids and are thinking about that, then think about what your core values are. Ours are stated in this system. So how many here have been in the military? Let me see, show of hands if people have been in the military. So not a whole lot, but a few people. Does anybody know what a challenge coin is? Can you define what a challenge coin is? Somebody that raised their hand?
A coin that pass on to other members.
Yeah, you pass on to other members. So it's a challenge coin. And so as commander, you get to make up challenge coins. And this is a photograph of mine. And on the front side of it, the mission is, and it's got my special operations insignia, my airborne, and it says the mission is to bring Joe home. Okay, so the last part of my career was all about rescuing and bringing home soldiers and sailors. And then on the other one, it has our core values. Can anybody read the core values there? Because it's not shown up very well. Can you read what they say? Yeah, integrity first. That's a pretty big core value. Okay, over the years, I've tried my darndest. Integrity first. What's another one that's up there? Service before self. That's kind of important too. And then the last one, which is sort of important. Excellence in all we do. Pretty strong set of core values. And so as I go through this discussion, the other piece on a challenge coin, where they came from was the idea that if a soldier or airman was shot down or captured behind enemy lines and the rescue team was brought in to rescue them, they would say, you know, how do I know it's you? And so what they would do is they would present this very unique coin that I always carry with me. If you find me without my challenge coin, it'd be like I forgot my false teeth that morning, okay? So, so I always have a challenge coin. I brought a few of these with me to encourage audience participation. So as I go through and I ask questions, if one of you step up and impress me with the answer, then I have a few of these in my pocket. Now, from here, you have two choices if I decide that you get a coin. You can either come up and get them, or I can toss them to you, okay? If you're in the back and I have to toss them, I'll reach you back there, by the way. You in the beard, I can get it back to you, okay? If you miss it, the imprint of this coin is going to be on your forehead. So decide whether you want to come up here and get it or whether you want to take the imprint on your forehead. So it's up to you, because I can reach it. And I'm not, I mean, if you sue this company, I don't care. So. Yeah, so we'll see how that goes, right? So we have them. So as we launch into this idea of having a set of core values, the first thing I would tell you is, as a patriarch, as a matriarch, or as a young student, write it down on your piece of paper. Capture my core values. Because what your core values are will decide how you respond to change. If your core value is, I want to make money, okay? Anybody know someone who has a core value that says, I want to make money? Okay? We do have that. What are they going to do when change occurs? They're going to adapt to try to figure out a way to make more money. There's nothing wrong with making money, but as a core value, I'm telling you, that sucks. Okay? It's a bad idea, because over the long term, you're going to get to the end of the game with a lot of money and no friends. Okay? So think about what that core value is. And then the other thing I would tell you is that this idea of neurochemistry and how we build habits around what those core values are going to be very important. And so everything kind of works together. You know, body, spirit, and soul all work together. And how we cooperate with this idea is pretty strong. Now, I would tell you, one of the places that I frequently give this talk is in church. Okay? So I'm going to try to not go over by half an hour like I do in church, right? No promises, but we'll see. Okay? And so how these things work together in creating habits are important. Now, the bottom line says engaging the amygdala. Okay, the amygdala is the emotional center of the brain. So what you may have had over the last 2 days is you are engaging the cerebrum. Okay, if you are trying to engage the cerebrum and learn, you will forget most of it within an hour to 2 hours after you've seen the fact and figure. If you engage the amygdala, the emotional center of the brain, which is also the part of the brain that is responsible for long-term memory, then you will retain it much longer. Okay, the emotional center of the brain. And so what we've done in industry, especially in the ag industry, as we've tried to get people to come and see our side of things, okay, this is what we do. We frequently will talk about things that engage the cerebrum. You know, we're pretty good guys. We raise our cows good. You know, we keep people fed. But we don't engage the emotional side of things, and so we spin our wheels. Whenever you're talking to somebody about what you do, what is the most effective way to get them to see that what we do in the dairy industry is so very vitally important? Anybody have an idea that really works for you? That after you talk to somebody, they go, yeah, I'm going to buy milk now. So go back to what they know. How do you do that, ma'am?
When I'm in a grocery store and someone's buying milk, I say, thank you for supporting me as a farmer.
Yeah.
And I appreciate the fact that you put milk on your table every day.
You know, that's a really good approach. So I'm going to just kind of go like this. There you go. That was safe. It goes up from there. I'm just warning you. The most effective way of doing that is, and you're very, very close, is to tell your story. Okay? The story engages the amygdala. If you can engage the amygdala and tell your story, then you can get people to see your side of it. If you can't tell the story, you're getting nowhere. Okay? Learned that as a veterinarian. You know, if you go out and you say, I really want you to raise your calves differently. Okay? And the guy says, I've been doing it this way for 50 years. Okay? Is he going to change? He's not going to change. But if I tell a story, and oftentimes I tell a story, because in small communities, you know the guy next to you who likes each other and who doesn't like each other. So if you tell a story of someone he doesn't like, that all of a sudden became successful, what do you think's what it's going to look like the next time you go visit? Okay, he's going, I might actually decide to change. Okay, so telling the story to engage the amygdala is going to be a critical component. All the compounds in our brains all work together to create a healthy environment. Okay, what do we do in America when we get depressed or something isn't working right? What's the answer in America?
Quit.
Well, quit's a big one, right? Yeah. You know, if I would have said quit as a kid growing up in Western New York, I'd have got my ass beat, right? Okay? Don't give up on that. Somebody says you're going to quit, your kids want to quit, beat their ass, okay? Write that one down. What's our answer whenever something gets sideways in our minds today? Anybody watch TV? Because who controls every commercial you turn on TV today? Yeah, they want to take a drug, don't they? Okay, so you take a drug. What does the drug do to the other compounds in your system?
Negatively impact.
Everything goes sideways, right? So there are time and place for that. But when we continually do it, we're thrown off so far we don't know which way is up anymore. You got to get back to your core values. So remember core values, write them down. Faith and family. I might actually throw a coin back your way, but that could be really fun. I don't know what kind, you know. You could have played basketball for Penn State last night. They couldn't catch anything either. So what is a habit? How do we develop habits? Anybody here have a really good habit that they want to tell me about? What's a really good habit some of you have? Yeah, go ahead.
I pray before every meal.
I pray before every meal. I call that communion, right? I do too, right? And so that's a great habit. And there's value in that, not just in what this is, but there's value in what's going on in your head when you do that, a good habit. Anybody have a bad habit they want to talk to you about?
I bite my nails.
You bite your nails. And what's the upside to that for you?
Nothing.
Nothing. Actually, something does happen there, believe it or not. When you bite your nails, you get a dopamine surge. Okay, it happens. It makes you feel better when you exercise a habit, right? Okay, and so how do we break a bad habit? Yeah, if you just go cold turkey, it's not going to work. So you have to break the neurochemistry. Do our cows have habits? Absolutely. Cows are the biggest creatures of habit. What happens when you break that habit? They don't like it, right? Holsteins will go find a gate and break it, right? Jerseys will go find a gate and lick it, okay? We're laughing because we all know that's true, right? It's what's going to happen. Okay, we all have these habits. I mean, I have my Mountain Dew habit, right? I can't even come up here and talk without it, okay? Most nutritious drink on the planet. Any of you ever read the label on a bottle of Mountain Dew? What's the #1 ingredient? No, water. Necessary for life. What's #2? You can look on the bottle. It's not sugar. No, you're close. It's #3. #2 is high fructose corn syrup. Okay? Vegetable. Okay? #3 is in fact concentrated orange juice. Fruit, vegetable, and water all in one healthy, nutritious drink. Things that you didn't know, right? I'm going to run out of time. How we develop habits is important. How we develop them and how we break them is absolutely hypercritical. And then one other thing that I want you guys to be aware of. Just stop and look around the room. And while you're looking around the room, you'll have the same sensation that I have. People in the dairy business are really weird, okay? We're an odd bunch, okay? We just are. Let's admit that we are a little bit different. And one of the ways that we're very different is how we think. And this idea of conceptualization is very prevalent in the dairy community, and I'll define conceptualization as the ability to take multiple ambiguous, seemingly disconnected circumstances and order that chaos into a sensible strategy to solve a problem. Okay? How many of you, after reading that definition, and you can raise your hands on this, would define yourself as a conceptualizer? Yeah, so some of us, it's much higher than others. What do you think the percentage of conceptualizers are in the United States? What percentage of people, based on many studies, it comes out about the same? Between 5 and 7%, okay? When you take that survey within agriculture, it goes up into the high 70s. Goes up way higher. We actually thrive in these types of settings. We like it when things kind of go sideways, okay? We don't wake up and go, man, I sure hope all the pipes freeze, you know? But when it does, and we accomplish it, and we come in at the end of the day, we go, that was a good day. You know, I fixed it. What do people do that don't enjoy that? They quit. They absolutely do quit. They call someone else who is a conceptualizer to fix it. We don't. We go, okay, I got to get this done. And then you look forward to actually solving that challenge. We're very different, okay? We think differently. Non-conceptualizers, I call them Democrats. Whoops, that's my out loud voice. Look at life very differently, okay? Just recognize that conceptualizers in a boardroom meeting with non-conceptualizers, we've got to have non-conceptualizers, because if you put them in a lane, they'll get something done. Okay, if you say, this is what I need you to do, don't go left or right, they'll get it done. Okay, that's a good place to have someone in a parlor. You know, don't think, just do. Okay, but you've got to have those people. But when you put conceptualizers and non-conceptualizers in a room to solve a problem, what happens? Trouble would be an understatement. Okay, we don't even like each other for the most part. Okay, it's very tough because we think very differently. Agricultural people think so far differently than the bulk of the populace, which we already know we're a small component of, that we just can't understand how these people can be that stupid. I mean, we do it all the time. How can you not see this? They think differently. People, and again, when I say look around the room, you know, we're not the cool people, okay? We think differently, and we go out, and when we raise our kids, they walk around in the barn and get cow shit between their toes, right? I mean, how many of you were raised like that? Okay? And it's not a big deal, right? But if you were to tell that to people that live in Manhattan, what is their reaction to that? That's child abuse, right? We think differently. How should we define a warrior? Because this is the other piece of this. If we're a warrior, so this is my son and my 2 grandsons, and he looks like the classic warrior, okay? He's an F-18 pilot. I think he makes Tom Cruise look like a candy ass, but that's just my opinion. Just my opinion. A warrior is someone who stands in the gap for someone else because they're in a position of power to do that. It's not a gender-specific issue, okay? When we get up every morning or we get involved in this industry and we go take care of the most amazing animal on the earth, I mean, it takes a warrior mindset, okay? It takes a warrior mindset. So understand core values, good habits, okay? I'm just going to go through them a little bit, and then understand what a warrior really is, and then look at yourself within that new light, because we are warriors. The last thing I would tell you is start with why. So I don't know how much more of this I'm going to get through, but start with why. Passion is a currency needed to purchase excellence. Excellence has been a really strong theme throughout this conference. You need gallons of gas, okay? Gas is not what Joe Biden says we'll never drill for. It is a different military acronym. GAS stands for give a shit, okay? You got to have a lot of gas, okay? And then my why food security and national security are synonymous. All of you, the fourth thing I want you to put on your paper is to write down your why. Why do you do what you do? Okay? Start with why, and you'll see me put some bones around this idea. Okay? Start with why. Binary versus complex thinking. Fear always leads to binary thought. Okay? We just went through a pretty significant pandemic. What was the pandemic? It was fear. We had a pandemic of fear. And as people that are out here as conceptual thinkers, fear leads to binary thought. Only do A or B, when there's probably 1,000 other things we could have done. Okay? So, fear always leads to binary thought. Prolonged fear leads people to only see a singular path. Okay? I would tell you that, again, despite some of my inability as a soldier to keep my vernacular as clean as my wife wishes I did, you know, my Bible says many, many times, it repeats it almost 250 times. What is the command in that Bible? Do not fear. It says it multiple times. Do not fear. Okay? So if you start off in the center of this circle, your why, you know, what's your purpose? Because once you have your why settled, how and what you do come out of that. But if you haven't even bothered to write down your why, you're probably going to struggle with this a little bit. So I'm going to try to get this video to get you to understand how important your why is. See if it'll play.
Series is called How Do I Know? And a lot of times when people hear the phrase, how do I know, the next thing they say is what? How do I know what? But the key really isn't to know what, the key is to know why. Because when you know your why, you have options on what your what can be. For instance, my why is to inspire people to walk in purpose. My what is stand-up comedy. My what is writing books. My what can be going out with some friends to eat. In fact, another what that has moved me towards my why is a web series that we have out now called Break Time. So every Wednesday at 3 o'clock, you should subscribe to the channel. We do a series called Break Time on YouTube. So 3 o'clock, we drop a new episode. One episode in particular, I'm about to show you a clip to. We were in Winston-Salem. So Break Time, this is how it works. I travel the country, I do stand-up comedy, probably an hour, hour and a half at an event. And in the middle of my show, I'll just sit down and start talking to the audience. And funny just happens. Or I'll meet somebody who's really interesting. So I met this one guy, and he said that he teaches music at a school. I was like, all right, you teach music, you know, can you sing? And then I'm just going to show you the clip. Check it. So you're a musical director? Yes, sir. All right, so let me get a couple bars of like Amazing Grace. Can you do the first part of that? Go ahead. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. Wow. That bro could sing. You know what I'm saying? All right. Now, what you give me the version is if your uncle just got out of jail, you got shot in the back when you was a kid. I'm just saying, let me see the hood version real quick, if you know which version I'm talking about. Just see if that exists. Let me see what you got. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. But now, right now I'm fine.
get this part.
So here's the thing. The first time I asked him to sing, he knew what he was doing. The second time I asked him to sing, he knew why he was doing it. When you know your why, your what has more impact because you're walking in or towards your purpose.
Think about that. If you haven't written down your why before you go home or on your way home or whatever over the next couple of days, decide what your why is, because if you don't have your why right, what or how will follow an incorrect why. And while it's a sort of a funny, poignant sort of video, I love it. I've shown it 100 times if I've shown it once. It resonates, right? If you understand that, then your core values follow, and then when change happens, what happens when you have those things right and change hits you? You stay healthy because you know what your purpose is. So let me just finish with one other thing. Okay, teamsmanship. This will get a coin out. So if you're trying to do this on your own, first of all, I'll tell you wrong. Most of what we learn in school, in the military, is this idea of leadership. Leadership will get you killed, okay? Teamsmanship will allow you to accomplish things that you never thought were possible. So let's talk about teamsmanship a little bit, because in the military, in a special operations unit, everything we did was on teamsmanship. Okay, we didn't worry about leadership, we worried about teamsmanship. So let's think about teamsmanship a little bit here. Anybody here work with draft horses? Let me see hands work with draft horses. A few people around here do. So how much weight, if you put rocks on a stone boat, how much weight could the average Belgian horse pull? Anybody have a number? These numbers might be off a little bit because I pulled them off Google. Never believe anything on Google, okay? What's that? So actually, according, you have a very small horse, okay? This horse says about 8,000 pounds, okay? Who said that about 1,500? Okay, I can't throw it that far. You're gonna have to come up and get it. So, well, he's coming up here and get it. About 8,000 pounds. Now let's go to the next level. Let's take, and we're gonna tie them two together. How much two horses when we pull them together? Here, I'll just toss it from here. Thank you. How much two horses together? Okay, they're not trained. 4,000. Yeah, so who said 4,000? I can get it that far, okay? Oh, yeah, that looked like the Rose Bowl there, but it wasn't Penn State. Actually, it can be a different amount, but in fact, it could be as much as 16K, but it isn't. It's usually around 12K, and if they really work against each other, any of you ever had employees that are absolutely dead set pulling against each other? Okay, you can get to zero. You can get to zero. Okay, now let's take this one. What can they do if they're trained as a team?
32,000.
Oh. Have you seen me talk before? All right. Or else you looked it up online. Do the math. Do the math. Two horses pulling together almost double what they would be able to do if they weren't working as a team. Whenever you've got a challenge out there, all you've got to do is get the synergy of teamsmanship, and you can do anything. And it won't seem humanly possible. Okay, we'll leave that go. The 5 F's that I referred to, which ones did you say back there, ma'am? Family and faith, they're huge. Okay, the other ones that I add to that, beyond family and faith, friendship. Okay, sort of why we do this conference. Fitness is actually kind of important. Okay, don't overlook it. And then one of the things that I tell you, as somebody who's had to deal with soldiers coming back You know, my first team that went out in Iraq, we left with 11. We came back with 7, okay? 4 people came back in silver boxes. Of the 7 that came home, 6 of them are no longer alive, okay? 5 of them were suicides, okay? I'm the last guy standing, and if I keep talking, you're gonna say, well, I hope this guy goes next. So, okay? One of the things that is absolute critical in this is this idea that I call funny, or sense of humor, okay? If you don't have a sense of humor in the face of really significant change, and you don't, find someone who makes you laugh, okay? Find someone who makes you laugh, because when you lose your sense of humor and you can't laugh anymore, or if you're around people that can't laugh, be worried about them, okay? That emotion was given to us for that very purpose, to try to help us keep our sanity and change. You got to laugh at things, okay? You know, I don't recommend turning on the news and trying to laugh, okay? What I do recommend is not turning on the news, okay? That's what I would really recommend, because they are manipulating you, and they're teaching your brain some very interesting things. So these are the 5 F's. You can write them down, do whatever you want with them. But I've found that when I can take my soldiers and I can keep those things all in order, when they go through really significant events that I hope none of you ever see in your life, they can come home and be all right. How many of you, just a show of hands, know someone who's come back from Afghanistan or Iraq and isn't quite right? Yeah, they're not quite right, okay? Which one is missing is what you got to ask. Which one is missing? Because that's where it lies. The other thing that I'll tell you is the 5-hour rule that will help you, and that is spend at least 5 hours a week in new and diverse learning. That'll help you. And the book that's on the side there is The Accidental Invasion of the Baghdad Zoo. Not because that's going to help you, but because I'm in that book and I want you to buy it. So in that book, it actually chronicles the fact that I am the guy who castrated Saddam Hussein's lion. So I know that you all were wanting to meet that person. It's me. Okay, last thing I'll talk to you about is this idea of generating how we do, once we have our why, how do we do things? And I would tell you, generating unforgettable moments is critical. What does that look like to all of you? I mean, here I am hunting with my son in Alaska. You know, people you care about, stop what you're doing, slow down, and say, I'm going to experience unforgettable moments with the person that I really care about. Because if you don't, what's going to happen? It's going to be too late. So the other thing, write it down on your paper. I'm checking everybody as we go out. If you haven't written it down, we do have a cattle prod at the door. Those things hurt, okay? Write it down. Generating unforgettable. You know, why do young couples go on honeymoons? Besides the obvious. Yeah, generating unforgettable moments. Unforgettable moments is the currency by which we decide a relationship has value. Go do it. Don't, you know, the next time this conference is up and somebody says, I want you to take me on a cruise to wherever, or, you know, go to the conference, and right after the conference, go, you know, have an unforgettable moment. Spend that time with the people you care about. This is the latest one that I did. I took all the guys on a cruise over Christmas vacation. Those are all my kids. And then I just got back from a Christian veterinary mission in Kenya, which you can tell that the top left is not my family. So that being said, the last thing I'm going to leave you with is what you do important. I like that. I don't think I got another coin though. It's everything. It's what you do important. So this picture was taken in the Kunar Valley and in Afghanistan, and I'm there, and you're looking at, what are you looking at there, folks? Beautiful valley. That's where all the fighting's happening. What are these people fighting about? Land and resources, green grass and water. What is that equal to? Food. That's what they're fighting over. You know, is what we do important? Because if we don't have food and we don't do this right, how quick does America devolve into chaos? How long would it take? Days? Weeks? Katrina happened. Anybody remember Katrina? Without food, how quickly did that society devolve into chaos? 72 hours. Okay? So let me just reiterate. We have to be excellent in all we do. We have to be. You know, I grew up, before I went to school in the morning, I had to go feed the calves. Okay? As a young kid, is there a worse job than trying to feed a calf? No, there is not. I'll just clarify you. There is not. Okay? But we have to be excellent. Because at the end of the day, a whole lot of people are dependent on us, right? Just like those soldiers out there, just like that. And if we're not excellent, then I would tell you that all those people like me, that when we're downrange and we say, what are we fighting for? You know, why are we doing this? Because we ask, you know, if people are shooting at you, you ask that question. You will ask that question. And if it's chaos back here and people aren't being fed, and you go, yeah, heck with it, you have it. I didn't want it anyways. Okay? The backbone of this country as a combat soldier is not what I carried in my M4. The backbone of this country is in this room, and I'm challenging you to be excellent every damn day. Thank you for your time. If you want to do question and answer, fine. If you don't,
We have time for a few questions. Do we have any questions from the audience?
It's okay to ask. I haven't killed anybody in over 5 years.
Well, since there doesn't seem to be questions, they're going to quit giving the mic runner a mic because I keep asking questions. But my question is, my son is a sophomore here at Penn State, recipient of the Air Force ROTC scholarship, and my nephew's a captain, active captain in the Air Force. And your presentation was full of a lot of this, but what suggestions or recommendations do you have for the next crop of young officers coming into the Air Force and as they try to meet their
My first suggestion is to quickly replace the old ones. Okay. That's my first suggestion, but I would tell you right now, as we are being faced with the idea that the military is a social experiment, we have to push back. We have to push back at every level. We are trained to break things and kill people. Okay, that's the purpose of the military, and to turn it into something else other than that. And I would tell you that in the military, 34 years, I never once saw racism in my life. Never saw it. And when people are hurt on a battlefield, there is one thing that is absolutely constant and consistent as a trained medic. They all bleed red, okay? And it just doesn't matter. All this other nonsense is tearing down a once very proud and capable military that can't stop a balloon from going across our country now, okay? And so, and I don't give a damn if it's on that screen either. What are you going to do to me, okay? So I would tell you that know that integrity means something. Know that excellence matters. Whatever those core values are, line up your core values. And I would tell you the best Christian school in this country is the U.S. Air Force Academy. People don't understand that, but there's a very strong Christian undertow there I taught there. We have to maintain our faith. This country will not work without its faith. Okay? So.
So you went halfway where I was going to go.
Okay.
What advice would you give to a father whose daughter is dating an Air Force pilot?
Marry him. Okay, so again, as someone who has pilots, I would tell you this: the deployments are tough. You know, so my wife raised 5 boys while I was deployed in special operations, and it's tough. Okay, and so I would tell you again, whatever that core position is, get it in mind. But the other thing I would tell you and your son needs to wrap his arms around this. For him choosing his spouse, if that person is not all in, it ain't gonna last. And the divorce rate in pilots in particular, where they go, okay, I'm gonna get in the air and I'm gonna have some SOB trying to pop me out of the air, and it can be gone like that. You know, you better figure out you better figure out what your support structure is, and you better have a faith like never. You know, I would tell you the people that struggle with their marriages or in their relationships like that are people that don't get that right, because it's tough. And one of my sons went through a divorce, and none of us saw it coming. And so you better strap in tight, because it wasn't just me that was in Iraq and Afghanistan. My wife it was tough, you know. She called me on a Easter Sunday. We got our sat phone through. I was out at the Baghdad airport, and I was talking to her on a sat phone, and I heard the rocket coming in. Okay, and I'm on the phone, and I go, oh shit, I better get down. I got down, that rocket landed from me to where that guy's sitting, exploded. The phone flew out of my hand. It was evening. I couldn't find the phone, and I couldn't hear. The connection's not broke. What's it like for my wife? You know, those discussions have to happen. Okay, that's my advice. Because the military is going to take and put you in places that you never thought would happen. Okay? Sorry, I could have given you, I should have just stayed with Miriam, but sometimes it sucks out there. Yeah, what else we got? Well,
I have a question.
Okay, go.
I kind of see two sides. I'm having trouble putting your dairy, your farm attitude and finding ways outside the box, fixing it, getting it done. It's a different mentality than I thought military was. Follow orders. I thought that was first and foremost. Follow orders. And follow order.
So probably I need to define myself. So special operations, special forces are not that way. Big Army hates us, okay? And so one of the books I recommend reading is a book called Team of Teams that Stan McChrystal wrote. And in that book, he talks about the task force that was going on in Iraq, and we weren't making things happen. And so what he did is he turned us loose, okay? And all the order was gone. All the chain of command said, if you guys know what needs to be done, go get it done, okay? So my mindset as a special operator is very different than, the tree good, fire bad guy, okay? We don't need dairymen that are tree good, fire bad. We need special operators. Okay, we have to think out of the box. We have to be able to adapt to change very rapidly, and we have to be able to tell our story. So, what percentage of America are dairy farmers today? Anybody know that number? Less than 1%. What percentage of the Army is special forces? Less than 1. Can you see that? Can you just draw that parallel? Yeah, we can't be rank and file. We've got to be different. We got to be special. We got to be conceptualizers. And quite honestly, we got to be a little bit weird, right? I'm pretty content with being a little bit weird. Not as weird as Mark McCullough, but weird. Okay.
Any other questions from the audience? Ladies and gentlemen, let's thank Sam one more time. I think a standing ovation is thank you for your service. Again, we want to say thanks to Land O'Lakes for sponsoring this session. All right, our exhibitor passport. We're excited. You can come pick up your chocolate and maybe hand a little out or just run to your car, either way. Tiana Vanderplug. All right, come on down, Tiana. It's not going to work like I thought it would. All right. At this time, we would like to ask Jane Seabright from the Center for Dairy Excellence and the Dairy Excellence Foundation to come forward for a few final remarks.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for coming to the summit, and thank you to Amy. Let's give Amy a round of applause. How many farmers are glad that we do not ask you to facilitate sessions anymore? Candace, I know you need to raise your hand. So I just wanted to start with this is actually my favorite part, I don't know. But I love looking back on the summit and thinking of all the good ideas that we're going to walk away with. So every year we have to come up with a theme. This summit is a lot of fun. It's a lot of work for those who are planning it, and one of the things that is kind of a chore each year is coming up with a theme, but it always turns out good. So we came up with fusion. Does anyone even know what fusion means? It's actually a nuclear term, when two atoms fuse together to make a new being or new item. So when you think about fusion in our context, it's really the blending of two forces into something new. And that's really what we're taking away today when you think about it. We're going to able to take what we learned today, all of the many ideas and concepts we learned, and take them away and make something new, make something better than what it was before. The other way I think that fusion might tie into our industry is, yesterday Chuck Turner and his thing said, we're not really a supply chain, we're a supply matrix. It's all about, it's not just one thing connects to another. It's finding the ways to connect everything we do and everything we need together to make something work. And if any part of that matrix is broken, it doesn't work. So really thinking about us, and even our connectivity as an industry, and thinking of us as a matrix and how we're interconnected in so many ways. And I think that fusion ties in really well in both of those terms. So let's wrap up with some of the few ideas that we can take away and infuse back into our dairies. Oh, and by the way, how many found a new identity for who you are? I am going to tell everyone now that I'm a conceptualizer, because that is what I am. I finally have a definition for what I am. Anyway, on biosecurity, you don't have to do everything to be perfect right now. You just have to start somewhere. And the one thing that didn't come up in yesterday's general session, is I wish they would have mentioned, is right now we have one dairy farm in Pennsylvania with a biosecurity plan. If foot and mouth disease comes to our state tomorrow and the entire state is quarantined, that is the only farm that will be able to ship milk. And that is why that is important. So biosecurity is important. You don't have to do everything right away, but you do have to do something, or it will mean your business when the crisis hits the floor or hits your door. On climate smart and environmental sustainability, your dairy business is tied to environmental sustainability, because eventually, maybe not next year, maybe not even in 5 years, but at some point your market will demand that of you. There is money available right now And if we don't use it, it's not going to be there when we need it. So that's something that we all need to think about, and we need to rise to that challenge. On business planning and bringing outside perspective into your business, they provide a different perspective on your business, and the older we get, the more we realize what we don't know. The goal is to keep learning. When you think about that outside perspective, the ROI is immeasurable because it opens up your door to what wasn't possible or what you didn't see as possible on your own. This is actually something Joe Del Grosso, and it's probably no one else heard it. I thought it was really fascinating. It was about the little things. He talked about all of the fantastic benefits. How many people want to work for Del Grosso? 100% coverage on health care. That's pretty awesome. But anyway, the other thing, though, beyond those fantastic benefits, he also talked about how every Saturday he goes out and he makes a meal for his employees to thank them for working on their day off. Can you imagine, if that shows them that he cares? And it's the little things that make people know you care. And I just thought that was really something cool. On communications, especially between family members, it can be really tough. Why is it tough? It's because what we're talking about really matters. At the end of the day, you have to decide the farm business that you want to be a part of. Find those core strengths that you can all agree on, and that is something that Sam also referenced, and let them guide you in building the bridge to help that communications. On technology, you've got to trust the technology and not be afraid of it. As our businesses grow, we will need that technology to help us manage better. You need the good data, and you need the time to study the data, but everything still starts with common sense. On investing in your future, start today because it will be here before you know it. Don't chase prosperity or money, chase knowledge and being better at what you do, and prosperity will likely follow. On entitlement, and a couple different speakers talked about entitlement. I don't know if John Dickinson was here a little bit ago, but he might have left. He's still here. He mentioned the reason he likes partners from small farms is because they didn't grow up entitled. They knew how to work every Saturday and Sunday, whether they liked it or not. I remember growing up, and my dad, if I didn't water those calves right, would make me drink the water, which was gross. But I think that's the thing that our industry has a lot to do, to remember. The senior generation is not entitled to have the next generation work with them or even agree with them. And the junior generation is not entitled to a job or to ownership in the farm. You have to be willing to earn it. On mental wellness, and unfortunately a lot of people missed this session. This was one of the first. Remember what feeds your soul. When we are stressing or facing difficult times, we tend to push the things that really feed our souls and make us feel motivated away. Whether it's walking or reading or whatever you like to do, when you're really stressed, those are the things that you stop doing. But those are the times that we should be intentional. We should intentionally gravitate to them because those will make us whole again. And I'm actually on 10. And that is on change. And I guess the thing about change is, I'm just going to summarize what Sam said. I thought he left us with a really powerful message. Define your core values. They will help you adapt to change. Share your story. We have a great story to tell. And if we don't tell it, somebody else will, and it won't be the truth. So we need to share our story. Be a warrior. And I liked his definition of a warrior, someone who stands in the gap for someone else. And if you think about it, that is what we do. And that's why we need to continue to be warriors. And write down your why. Whether it's today or in the next week, write down your why so you can adapt and stay healthy when challenge hits your door. So that is all with the summit. I do want to thank everyone who was involved with the summit. First of all, We had 48 different people who presented at some piece of the program. I don't know how many of them are left. That was more than we ever had, like in panels and whatever. I want all of those folks to stand. They made our program great. I want to give them applause. I also want to thank our teams. I want to thank anyone who serves on the board of directors of PDMP or the Center for Dairy Excellence, and our staff. I want you guys to stand. I think this is a phenomenal event. Terry Breon. Staff too. I don't see any of the staff standing. We've been doing this event since 2005, and I mean, it's a lot of work. We were making up songs about all the things of pains about the summit, but in the end, it is so fantastic, and it's because of all the people who are a part of it. So thank you. Just a couple last-minute details. We really want to hear from you. One thing we did differently, I might have missed those slides. Oh, you put it in front. So first of all, take the survey. We want your feedback. The first 200 people will get this hat. Anyone who worked over the weekend knows how valuable this hat was. We never have enough beanie caps, so make sure you take it along with you. If you do use the electronic app, just show them that you did it, or tell us, we believe you. So, save the date for next year. It'll be at the Lancaster Wyndham Resort and Convention Center. That's actually new. We're back at the host after they've renovated. So if you remember the host, that's where we are next year. And then this year we didn't have any breakouts that duplicated, and I don't know if that annoyed anyone, but like in years past, you'd have like maybe 2 options. We didn't do that this year, but instead we did record all the breakout sessions, audio only, but you can listen to them as podcasts. So after the summit, you will get an email on how to access those podcasts, and then all of the main sessions are videoed. So again, thank you very, very much. Thanks to all our sponsors and exhibitors. You make this possible, and we really appreciate you. Thank you.
How about one more round of applause for all of your organizers for a great 2-day summit.